You already know what you should do. That's what makes this so strange. You're not confused. You're not missing a piece of information. You could explain the right answer to someone else, clearly, in about 30 seconds. You know what the habit costs you. You know how the next morning feels. You've read the article, watched the video, had the conversation with yourself in the car, and then you do it again. 11:47 at night. The alarm is already set for 6. You know exactly how tomorrow is going to feel, in your body, in your mood, in the way you'll talk to people before noon, and your thumb keeps moving down the screen. Or it's the transfer you were going to make on payday. You had a number. You'd written it down, and by Sunday, some of it went to something you can't quite justify now, and you remember thinking, in the moment, that it was fine. Or it's the thing you've been meaning to start, and instead you answered emails. You cleaned the kitchen. You organized files that were already organized. You were busy for 4 hours, and you didn't touch the one thing that mattered. That's the part that stings, not failure, the gap. You knew, and you still didn't. So here's the question this whole video is built on, and I want to be honest with you. The answer isn't where most people look for it. If you know a behavior is hurting you, why do you keep choosing it? Because I don't think the choice is being made where you think it is. By the time you're aware of choosing, a lot of what shapes that choice may already be in place. Something happened before that moment. Something quiet. And that's where we're going. But first, let's get rid of the explanation you've probably been using. Most people, when they look at that gap, reach for one of 3 words: motivation, discipline, willpower. I just need more of it. I need to want it badly enough. I need to be stronger. Now, those things are real. Discipline is real. But notice what happens when that's your only explanation. It turns every repeated behavior into evidence about your character. You didn't just stay up too late. You're the kind of person who can't control themselves. That's a heavy thing to carry, and it doesn't actually help you, because shame has never once made anyone better at scrolling less. And here's what should make you suspicious of that explanation. You already have discipline. You have it in places nobody praises you for. You show up to work when you don't feel like it. You take care of somebody. You do things every week that are boring and hard, and you do them anyway. If you were simply a person with no willpower, that wouldn't be true. So the problem isn't a missing trait, it's more specific than that. Something about certain moments defeats you, and something about other moments doesn't. That's a much better question than am I weak? Self-sabotage doesn't usually look like sabotage while it's happening. It looks reasonable. It looks like one small allowance, and that's the first thing worth understanding. Because the visible moment, the checkout, the second hour on the phone, the skipped workout, that moment may be the end of a sequence, not the start of one. Think about the purchase you regretted. It probably didn't begin at the register. It may have begun 3 hours earlier, when something at work went badly, and you felt small, and you didn't say anything about it. It continued when you opened an app to distract yourself. It moved forward when you were tired and hungry, and hadn't eaten anything real since 1 o'clock. By the time you were looking at the item, the decision had already been mostly assembled. The card was just the last step. Or the night that ended at 1 in the morning. It may not have started at midnight. It may have started when you brought the phone into the bedroom and set it on the pillow beside you, at a moment when you weren't tempted at all. You made that choice calmly, rested, fully rational, and that calm choice quietly decided what your tired self would be facing 4 hours later. That's the thing about the moment of failure. You keep trying to win the fight at the point where it tends to be hardest to win late, drained, alone, with most of your resistance already spent on the day, and then you judge yourself by how you performed in that hour. Nobody sets up a chess match that way on purpose. So why does the pull win at the end of that sequence, when your reasons are so much better? Because your reasons and the pull are not competing on the same terms. What the behavior offers you is available immediately. Relief, now. Comfort, now. A small, dependable hit of something in the next 15 seconds. What you actually want, the body, the savings, the finished project, the calmer mornings, is somewhere out in a future you can only imagine. And imagination is a weak opponent for something you can feel. For many people, that's the real gap, not knowledge, not desire, distance. The cost is far away and slightly blurry. The reward is right here and perfectly clear. It doesn't take a broken person to lose that trade. It just takes a normal one. There's also something underneath the reward, and this is where it gets more personal. A lot of the behaviors we call self-sabotage aren't really about pleasure. They're about regulation. You're not scrolling because it's fun. Most of the time, it isn't even fun. You're scrolling because there's a low hum of something you don't want to sit with, restlessness, dread about tomorrow, the leftover residue of a conversation, a vague heaviness you can't name, and the screen turns the volume down. If you look at your own patterns honestly, you may notice they cluster, not on random days, on specific kinds of days, after conflict, after being criticized, after a stretch where you felt invisible, after something went well and you don't quite know how to hold that either. That's worth writing down somewhere. Some of what looks like a discipline problem may be an unattended feeling with a habit built on top of it. And then there's the last layer, which is the hardest one to see, because it doesn't feel like a behavior at all. It feels like you. Familiarity has a gravity to it. A version of yourself that you've been for 10 years is not just a set of actions. It's a set of reflexes, expectations, routines, a whole worn groove that your day slides into without asking permission. Change asks you to become slightly unfamiliar to yourself, and unfamiliar is uncomfortable even when it's better. So, sometimes, the sabotage isn't protecting you from effort, it's returning you to a self you know how to be. You can see what that might look like in ordinary places. Someone loses the weight and slowly rebuilds it. Someone finally gets the calm relationship and feels unsettled by the quiet. Someone starts doing well and, without deciding anything, begins drifting back. None of those stories has only one explanation, but familiarity may be part of what's pulling. There's no villain in that story. There's just a self with a shape, resisting being reshaped. Some things aren't meant to follow you into who you're becoming, but they don't leave just because you've decided you're done with them. Now, if this conflict feels ancient, that's because it is. There's a passage in Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 7, where he writes something remarkably plain. He says that he does not do the good he wants to do, and the evil he does not want to do is what he keeps doing. He describes wanting one thing and finding another thing at work in him. I want to be careful here, because this passage gets pulled around a lot. Paul isn't writing about productivity. He isn't writing about screen time or gym attendance. In context, he's wrestling with something much bigger, the law, sin, and why knowing what's right doesn't produce the power to do it. That's his subject, and it deserves to be read on its own terms. But here's what we can reasonably carry over. This is one of the clearest descriptions in Scripture of the distance between knowing what's good and actually doing it. Paul isn't confused about the good. He's clear about it. And clarity, in his own account, wasn't enough on its own. that should change how you talk to yourself. Scripture doesn't treat that distance as a small problem, solved by simply knowing better. It's described from the inside, honestly, by someone who took it seriously, and it isn't waved away. There's another line in the letter of James, chapter 1, that's useful for a different reason. James describes temptation as a sequence. He writes that a person is drawn away and enticed by their own desire, and that the desire, once it has conceived, gives birth to sin. The theological weight of that passage is about sin and its end, and I'm not going to flatten it into a productivity tip, but notice the shape of it. It isn't described as a single event. It's described as a process with stages. Something is dragged, something is enticed, something develops, and then something is born. The application I'd draw from that is simple, and it's the turn this whole video has been walking toward. If it's a sequence, it can be interrupted, and it's easiest to interrupt early. So stop trying to win at the last second. Ask a different question. Not how do I resist the thing, but what happens right before the thing. Then change that. Some of this is physical and almost embarrassingly simple. The phone charges in the kitchen. The card isn't saved in the browser. The gym bag is in the passenger seat, not the closet. You eat something at 4, so that 6 o'clock isn't making decisions for you. You are not building character with any of these. You're just removing the requirement that your most depleted self be your strongest self. Some of it is about deciding in advance. In a calm moment, you name what you'll do, and when, and where. Not I'll work out more, Tuesday and Thursday, before work, and if I miss Tuesday, I go Wednesday. That last part matters more than people think, because a lot of routines don't die from a missed day. They die from the story we tell after the missed day. One skipped session doesn't end anything. Deciding you've broken it might end some of it is about handling the moment before the moment. There's often a small gap between feeling the pull arrive and acting on it. Sometimes it's brief, but while that gap is open, you still have votes. Stand up, step outside, text the person, drink some water. Not because those things are magic, but because they cost the pull its momentum. Here's a short exercise. One behavior, just one. Pick the one you're most tired of repeating, then answer for things. What happened in the hour before it? Be specific. Where were you? What had just ended? Who had you just talked to? What were you trying to feel or stop feeling? What made it easy? What was already within reach? And what's the earliest point in that chain you could actually change? That's it for questions. Doing this honestly even once can reveal something you didn't expect. Not a character flaw, a pattern with a starting point. And then there's the question underneath all of it, which is really an identity question. Not how do I force myself to stop, but what keeps making this the easiest version of me to return to, because that's what you're actually up against. Not a moment of weakness, a default, a version of you that your evenings, your kitchen, your phone, your schedule, and your tiredness all quietly cooperate to produce. Change the conditions, and you make a different version of you easier to return to. It may feel less dramatic than a burst of motivation, but it gives change something more stable to stand on. If this is the kind of thinking you want more of, subscribing is enough. So go back to 11:47 at night. The alarm set for 6, the thumbs still moving. You thought that was the moment you failed. It wasn't. It was the moment you found out what you'd already set up hours earlier, when nothing felt hard and no decision felt important. You are not weak at midnight. You are just late. Meet yourself earlier. That's where the old you is still waiting to be left behind.